The Final Fantasy Wiki Podcast is brought to you by KFC, world famous fried chocobo. 11 types of gisho greens and spices and our classic recipe. Make your night a fried chocobo night. And then the theme music.
Oh plays. My god, fried chocobo?
Good evening, welcome to the Final Fantasy Wiki Podcast. I'm your host, BlueHighwind, and it's November 2023. Another month in the calendar. There was a month last month, and there will be a month next month. And on it shall go for the rest of time. Joining me is, who?
Catuse.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Catuse. And, sorry,
SomeColorMage.
Okay, alright. I'm bad with names. Sometimes I forget my names. And then,
the last one is going to be Technobliterator. That's me. And I just want to say, right off the bat, right, I do not like to push my vegan views on anyone, but I gotta draw the fucking line at chocobos, man. Leave the fucking chocobos alone. I'm joining PETA over the fucking chocobos.
Well, I got bad news for you. In Final Fantasy XVI, there are multiple scenes where they consume chocobos.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm boycotting the game. That's it. That's made my decision. Never playing it.
Okay. I think Uncle Byron orders chocobo from, like, a diner. Am I remembering this correctly?
Yeah, I can't remember the precise details of that scene aside from Byron just being an absolute mad lad during the fight.
Yes. Oh yeah, he brings out like a big hammer and starts beating people over the head with it. Alright, so
by the way, if anyone doesn't have Final Fantasy XVI yet, it's 40% off because of Black Friday right now.
Oh. So
by the time this is up, it might not be anymore.
This will probably be posted right after the Cyber Monday deals end. Sorry to say.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Maybe. Alright. Well, either way, a deal will come back.
At some point, that game will be on sale, and probably for much, much more, if you're just patient about it.
Right.
Yep.
Like it'll probably be discounted around the time it launches on PC.
Yeah, I reckon that's when I'll get it, more than likely.
So, if perchance you're listening and you're wondering, what is this podcast about? Why have I been forced to listen to this show? I'm trying to imagine what scenario would lead you to this, where you would be listening without any concept as to what this is. This is the official podcast of the Final Fantasy Wiki. It is a website on the World Wide Web, which is a compendium of knowledge and factoids and various stats and tips and tricks and images from a video game series called Final Fantasy. Go to www.finalfantasywiki.com today.
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Final.fantasy.wiki. Right?
Nope.
No? FFWiki.fandom.com?
It probably works, but it's not the correct one.
Okay, alright. Just tell me what the URL actually is.
FinalFantasy.fandom.com.
Okay. And we do say the fandom.com part in that exact tone of voice. I think they've earned it.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think a couple more wikis seceded from fandom in this past month. Did you see that news report?
Yeah, but it's like, I don't know how many of them are just Gamepedia ones that have seceded and how many are actually like seceding for the first time. It's not, I'm not like up to date enough with it yet, but I know that they, there's a video going around called Stop Using Fandom, which makes some very compelling arguments against them.
Yeah,
I mean, we don't have to cover for other sides. They might not have been always here. It doesn't really matter. And at the same time, like this place is being managed like shit.
Yep.
Like there's no other way to put it. what, a couple years out from having a set of things that actually improved the wiki, and they're immediately going back into old trends.
Yep.
I'm also becoming like increasingly annoyed by the seemingly endless rise of like stupid, annoying bugs, which to be fair have been here for a while. But I think the thing that's annoying is they don't fix them. Like the bug where you randomly switch into mobile view hasn't been fixed for years now. Sometimes I'm just doing stuff and I just randomly get logged out for no reason.
I find that I hate looking at the wiki on my phone, which is where a lot of my internet browsing has ended up, and it's just like there's so many ads, there's so much crap on the screen. It's just I gotta go to like
their argument was...
Anyway, it is the official stance of most of the admins that adblock works on our site.
Yeah.
Yep.
This episode now brought to you by Firefox, because adblock works on mobile on Firefox.
This episode brought to you by Monobook. Please bring it back. It was when the wiki actually looked good.
Although, be careful with adblock, because YouTube won't like you very much. Google not a big fan of adblock these days.
You know, they stopped whining at me about that. When I would go on YouTube, they would give me a pop-up, and now they just stopped.
Oh, they did?
Yeah. And let me tell you, the alternative of going to YouTube and clicking on every video and it's the exact same 3 ads is fucking interminable. I'll take anything over those ones.
Like, they might not have stopped, but the people who maintain uBlock knows how it works, so like every time they arbitrarily change the URL, someone like immediately catches on and changes it and pushes an update to the filters.
I cannot tell you how many times I've seen an ad of the girl from the Avatar movies doing kung fu moves into a mirror. I don't even know what the ad is for. I don't pay attention to that much. It's just like I've had to see that same ad 5,000 times. Or Taylor Swift telling people that they're being too loud. I don't know what that ad's for either, but it happens endlessly.
I only get ads for bullshit solar panel companies or bullshit weight loss programs. Mostly bullshit weight loss programs, which is funny because I'm underweight.
Yeah, you are. It's actually, I tell you.
The solar panel ones are indeed bullshit. Like, you know, I have solar panels, and anyone who posts it on a YouTube video who says, "Oh, we'll buy it for you for free" or XYZ, like they're full of shit. That's a fucking Ponzi scheme. Like there is legit ways to get it. That's not one of them.
I mainly get ads for Honkai Star Rail, which is both a blessing relative to what you guys seem to get, and also I just could not give less of a shit.
Oh, I went through a long period a couple of months ago before the elections here, our New Jersey elections. There were a ton of anti-trans ads, and it was deeply distasteful.
Yeah, and whenever I get those ads, it's hilarious to me because it's like, I can't vote. You're just wasting money on me.
I thought you like officially were moving towards getting citizenship, or maybe I'm confused with someone else.
Fortunately, yeah, a green card would have to come first, and then that means you can't vote for like 5 years.
Okay. So you don't have a green card? Well, maybe we should talk about this off mic.
Not yet.
Okay. All right. This seems like a non-podcast discussion to have, actually. So anyway, we should talk about the news. What happened in the world of Final Fantasy over the last month? I'll go and show what I found. So first of all, I'm working on news music. Hironobu Sakaguchi is releasing a new video game.
Good for him.
Yeah, you may have heard of Hironobu Sakaguchi. He created a video game called Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
This is his first game. Yes, he did.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, he directed a movie called Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within as well.
So, he did.
Yeah. So I don't know what his new game is. It looks like there's very small things. All he did was tweet. He visited a Shinto shrine and gave a prayer for it.
Is it a sequel to the last one he made that was on Apple Arcade?
No, that was Fantasian. That
Okay.
project looks like it's petered out. Came out in 2021.
Yeah,
I heard really
that's
good things
finished.
about it.
That's finished, and it looked interesting, but it's Apple Arcade
Yeah.
exclusive.
That's the
I'm not
main
bu-
like. It's the main thing people got from that was like, this is probably great. I don't have Apple Arcade, and I'm not getting it just for this game though. That was the main like feedback it got.
Other thing is Nia DaCosta, who was a Academy Award-winning director, as a matter of fact. Oh wait, sorry, I'm getting her confused with someone else. Nia DaCosta directed the remake of Candyman. Anyway, she directed The Marvels, which is not a particularly successful MCU movie, but one of her main influences that she cited was Advent Children.
Yep. It's not only not particularly successful, it's literally their worst bomb since they've existed, I think. But yeah, I have not seen it, so I don't know which scene she's referring to. But that's cool that she took inspiration from it, I guess. Like I don't know anything else that's taken inspiration from Advent Children other than that one music video that got what they'll turn out to be like they got sued for it.
Her quote is, "It's an amazing movie that has really great fight scenes and a really great ending sequence with the main characters being thrown into the sky by all the other characters." So that'd be,
That was indeed a good sequence.
yeah, that's Cloud
Right.
versus the Bahamut summon for that movie.
No, see, if Advent Children, if that was like, if those were cutscenes in a video game, it'd be great.
Well, let me recommend a video game called Final Fantasy VII Remake, in that case.
Right.
Look, I mean, yeah, Advent Children is still something to joke on, but you know, when I did finally get to watch it in a recording that will never see the light of day because it got lost, I mean, I enjoyed it. So,
Right. Yep. It's
I definitely
like,
had fun, but I don't think it was good. But I had fun.
yeah, exactly. That's basically how Advent Children is. Like it's an enjoyable watch. Like especially, or I should say, Advent Children Complete is an enjoyable watch. Advent Children Original is dog shit. But I mean, it's an enjoyable watch. It's not like it's not a good film. But I would say it's probably better than Kingsglaive.
Which would I rather watch? I would rather watch Advent Children than Kingsglaive, yeah. I like those characters more.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't really give a shit about Noctis's clown show bodyguard family.
Kingsglaive is a nothing film unless you want to like see the ugliest diamond weapon ever.
There's giant monsters, like the weapons from Final Fantasy VII show up at the end.
And Ultros shows up.
Ultras? I guess he did, yeah. Oh, by the way, to correct myself earlier, I was getting Nia DaCosta mixed up with Chloe Zhao, who directed a different, not particularly successful movie in the MCU film, and also won Best Picture for Nomadland. Nomadland, Lad, my new superhero. Anyway, our next news thing is in the world of Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, they have a Final Fantasy IX crossover. So you can now get a 5-star weapon, which is Vivi's magical gun.
It's so fucking
What?
stupid, man.
Yeah, I know.
Yep. It is.
Just
Like, just think of Vivi. Do you even think he'd be able to fire a gun without falling over?
this rifle looks to be about as tall as he is.
Yeah.
It's this tiny little boy, and he's got a rifle.
Maybe the idea is that it's like Spellblade, but instead of Spellblade, instead of casting it on Signer's sword, he casted it on a gun. I mean,
It's like Gun
it's
Mage
fucking
from,
stupid.
from Final Fantasy X too.
Oh yeah, Gun Mage.
Yeah. All right. Next thing, the Game Awards are coming out in about a week. I'm not sure if I'll be watching. I'm kind of undecided on that.
Probably not.
But
Good.
Final Fantasy did get a decent showing here. So Final Fantasy XVI was nominated for Best Performance for Ben Starr for playing Clive, Best Narrative, Best RPG, and Best Score. It was not nominated for Best Game. Final Fantasy XIV got nominated for Best Ongoing Game and Best Community Support. And Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is one of the most anticipated games of next year. And finally, Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis has been nominated for Best Mobile Game.
Okay.
Fucking how?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that tells me more about how bad mobile games this year has been than anything about Ever Crisis. Like,
I mean, some of the nominations in this are just fucking stupid anyway. Like, I mean, I'm sure most of the people who listen to this podcast are already in a thing, but let's look at the category Best Independent Game, and you know what independent means. So let's see. We have Cocoon, which on its description explicitly states that it's published by Annapurna. We have Dredge, which in this listing is explicitly published by Team 17. We have Viewfinder, which on this list is explicitly published by Thunderful Publishing. And we have Dave the Diver, which they have not included the publisher on, because then they'd have to admit that they put a fucking Nexon game in the Best Indie category.
So your arguing is that if it's an indie game, it must be self-published?
Yeah, all of those are publishers. Like there has been an industry formed around coalescing publishing small studios, and a bunch of these things like Annapurna, they outright get involved in how the development companies run. That's not independent. That's a complete opposite of independent. That's you've let another company run you.
it's like, people need to stop. I keep saying this all the time, man, and people are probably sick of me saying it. But people need to stop actually treating award shows as any measure of quality whatsoever. Because they're not. They're a measure of what a group of, like, whoever it is running them, what that group happens to deem deserves to be the best movie, or the best album, or the best game, or whatever. And they always get it wrong. There's very few times they actually get it right. They always get it wrong. The reason to watch these is for the fun of it. And the Game Awards there's no fun to the Game Awards.
Alright, we don't need to get mad about the Game Awards. Let's dial it back a little bit.
The Game Awards are so fucking boring that I can't imagine getting mad about something that's that fucking boring. But I will say that we have not even gotten to the level of us coming up with stupid choices for who's the winner. We have come up with what are stupid choices for the nominees.
Yep.
This is an all new level.
Yep. It's so dumb.
Now, Final Fantasy is not an indie game, so we're kind of off topic. But I would say I do have thoughts on this, on the issue of what actually is an indie game anymore. I remember actually arguing about this back when I was working for Fandom. I wrote an article about No Man's Sky, and it's like weird placement between being an indie game and not being an indie game, and what that even meant anymore. As far as I can tell, it's only useful anymore not as a production process, because I don't think people particularly care about how games are made when you really get down to it. It's mostly a marketing term and a genre term. So I think all 5 of those games that were listed would at least fit in the platonic ideal of what people imagine with indie games. So it is coherent on some level, is not particularly coherent in terms of actually being indie, and I think if we have an overly strict definition of it, like practically nothing is indie anymore.
No. Yeah, exactly. You know, when you have a genre called indie pop, you know that the term means absolute fuck all.
Yeah, it's so much worse with music and movies have been down this exact same path where there's just like A24, people think of that's an indie film studio, but they actually are a studio in the traditional form, and they're actually like producing films in-house at this point.
So all I'm gonna say is like to all the people who say like, "Oh, FF16 was robbed because it wasn't nominated for best game," as if it was going to win best game. Like, I don't know that the one area in which the Oscars is kind of useful is a lot of people watch all the nominated movies for that as just an idea of good movies that they want to watch. I don't think that exists with games, right? I feel like, you know, I can't really think of that many examples other than, who was it who won Get Best Game last year? Like,
I don't even remember.
I don't remember.
I don't know who won.
Like,
I don't remember who won Best Picture last year at this point.
Yeah.
Was it Everything Everywhere All at Once? Did that win Best Picture?
That did win Best Picture, yeah.
Right.
But
sick.
I just like, other than that game, I can't think of any instance where there's like, I don't think there's a much of an audience of people who say, "Oh, I look at the TGAs and, you know, I choose that for what games I'm gonna buy this year." So I don't think it's really gonna do much for FF16's popularity one way or another.
Look, frankly, I think the top 6 for Game of the Year mostly makes sense anyway.
Yeah.
Just listed, that's Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Insomniac's Marvel's Spider-Man 2, the Resident Evil 4 remake, Super Mario Wonder, and Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, Baldur's Gate is probably gonna win it. I might be wrong, but I'll
that
also
has
say
all the hype around it. Yeah.
I'll also say that Baldur's Gate, there was an interview recently where they talked about how they took inspiration from Final Fantasy VII remake for the characters for that, which I think is a pretty cool detail.
I did not know about that.
They said like basically they saw FF7 remake's character work and they said, "Oh shit, we really need to up our game," which, you know, if that means like, going back to the whole fucking Western versus Japanese RPGs thing, if that means they're like, you know, they're borrowing stuff from one another, then good for them.
Yeah, alright, so this was a rock, paper, shotgun interview.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find the actual interview, see if I can find the actual quote. My one opinion about the Games Awards is, well, I have two opinions. One is that probably Street Fighter VI should have been nominated. I didn't play that game. I don't really have much opinion about fighting games, but the reception around that seems to be like deeply impressed. It looks incredible. Like, it is a gorgeous looking video game. And I would say that releasing a award show in early December means you screw over some games that come out in December actually. So
yeah, because I'm pretty sure last December's aren't allowed to be nominated for next year's either. So
that means Pentiment did not get nominated for Jack, and I think Marvel's what's that called? Midnight Suns did not get nominated for Jack because they both came out after the award show, and those are great games. Any other opinions? Sorry.
Yes. So, but yeah, I agree. The way that the awards are formatted means that if you care about this, there's 1.5 dead months, right in the middle of, you know, one of the most important spending seasons. So it's not very helpful.
Maybe that's why they do it. Maybe that's the reason that they have the awards around then.
Yeah, I think they do it just for, like, hype reasons. It's like, all right, it's been roughly 6 months since E3. Let's go and have our kind of winter E3, is what it really is.
Yeah. And the other thing is, the trailers just aren't any good. Like, I've never been impressed by a Game Awards trailer.
The Alan Wake 2 trailer last year was pretty damn good.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, by the way, it's the official stance of the Final Fantasy Wiki Podcast that Alan Wake 2 should win Game of the Year.
Sure. I know Spider-Man 2 is not going to win it. Like, but, you know, that was a good game, but that's not Game of the Year material.
Still haven't played it, sorry to say. I did finish Alan Wake 2 recently, and that is a hell of a game. Alright, let's move on from Game Award stuff. I couldn't actually find that rock, paper, scissors quote. Sorry.
I'll find it.
It's alright. I think you got the gist of it well enough. So, Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis has officially come to Steam. I think that happened on the 20th of this month.
Oh, it's actually come out on Steam.
Or, no, sorry, they're announced that it's going to be... Or, no, wait, it has been published. I'm reading this very poorly. Yeah, it is on Steam right now. So, if you hate playing games on your phone, which, say, you're me, you don't have to do that. And our last bit of news is...
It is not actually out yet.
Okay. They said has been published in this tweet.
Yeah, well, it just says coming soon on Steam.
All right,
and they have a thing that, like, if you're a new player, you'll get a ton of shit that is not actually that useful. But
Okay, all right. Thank you, Techno. Found the quote. This is James Olin. His name's James, right, Techno?
Yep.
Yeah, James Olin, who is a former BioWare guy and now works on Baldur's Gate 3, said, quote, "I'm very competitive. I went and played Final Fantasy VII and was like, oh my god, these characters make ours look like a bunch of cardboard cutouts. This is terrible." And I guess that inspired him to then go make such epic and important Baldur's Gate's characters like Baldur, presumably, and I don't know anything about Baldur's Gate, I'm sorry to say. Yeah.
I need to check it out. It sounds like I'd probably be interested in it.
Well, I don't know that much about the Forgotten Realms setting, so all I really know about characters is that, like, there's that vampire guy that a bunch of people have gone horny for, and that there's a druid that turns into a bear you can have sex with.
Oh, of course.
So I've not played through all of Baldur's Gate 3, but I'm maybe about halfway through. I'm doing it very, very slowly because I'm an old ass man now.
No, you're not.
But...
You're like 22.
I'm not 22. But
you are.
Anyways,
22.
Anyways,
28.
I do think that the characters of Baldur's Gate 3 are some of the most fleshed out I've seen in games in a long time, though I think that a lot of the credit there goes specifically to the voice actors. And part of it is that because it's like a D&D game, you spend a lot of time just talking to the like PCs in your party about stuff. But I think that at least this is the game with the best voice acting.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
What do you...
Yeah, like for that best performance award at the Game Awards, it's pretty much down to Baldur's Gate 3 versus Final Fantasy 16, because Baldur's Gate 3 is generally excellent. It's also Ben Starr's take on Clive is also like some of the best writing and performance in Final Fantasy in general, man.
I've heard.
Aiden, or Catuse, whatever your name is. Would you recommend Baldur's Gate to me?
I think so. I mean, it is very much not a JRPG. I know JRPG is like a kind of a dangerous word. I mean, we've talked about this a lot of times, but I do think that it is a game that has, well, not just one story, but a lot of stories, depending on how you decide to play it. It is a game that has a lot of like stories that the developers have obviously put a lot of effort into trying to flesh out. I said it has the best voice acting, and the boss fights are pretty interesting. The combat system is D&D, so you will enjoy the combat if and only if you can put up with D&D.
I wouldn't like it then. Yeah,
but also unlike most modern D&D games, it's actually turn-based instead of the real-time with pause that has been the foundation of Western D&D based RPGs for like 2 decades.
Yeah. Well, when I say D&D, I mean it is literally 5e D&D with minor corrections. Like Greece actually works now. Okay. I don't mean it's like an action RPG.
Because when I
was excited until then, man. I fucking hate D&D combat. Okay. It's so I'm not gonna say it's bad or anything. I'm just gonna say I hate it.
When I think of D&D as a video game, I go all the way back to like NES, like Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, Heroes of the Lance crap, which are like the worst friggin' side-scrolling games you could ever imagine. I'm guessing it is not that.
No, I mean like I mean like the play I mean like turn-based combat, not on a grid like Final Fantasy Tactics, or I guess actual D&D would be on a grid. But I mean like turn-based combat using basically the rules of the 5e Player's Handbook.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're already up to the 5th edition.
Yeah.
I remember
I
when
think the 6th edition will be in a few years.
Really? I remember when like the 4th edition came out like in 2010. Or is my brain not functioning anymore? I don't.
No, that was around when the 4th edition came out, but everyone hated it, so they quickly rushed out the 5th edition.
Okay.
I mean, I think when people say they hate D&D combat, there's a good chance they mean they hate 4th edition combat, because 4th edition combat takes a very long time. Everything has like 500 HP.
All right.
Yeah,
so...
I think also like a bunch of the timescale gets screwed up because like the first 2 editions of the game were around for forever, and then the 3rd and a half edition also was around for a long time.
Okay. So final news report. This is the most important one by far. There's now Pizza Hut items in Final Fantasy XIV.
Oh yeah,
There were
that
also
you
Pizza
can.
Hut items.
Yeah, that was a promotional thing from a while back that they've now just added to the cash store, so you can get the Eat Pizza remote now.
Oh, you
The
know
thing
what?
is, when they
I don't
when
think
they
this
did
actually
that,
is
like,
Pizza Hut. I think it's just generic pizza.
It's I'm pretty sure it's Domino's, because when they did this back in the day, it was a promo for some pizza store, probably Domino's. And the problem is, the promo was you would buy a Domino's pizza on Grubhub, and they were supposed to give you the emote in game if you did that. The problem is that this didn't really work, and so a bunch of people bought Domino's pizzas and then didn't get the emote because the system was just broken, and they never really compensated people for all their like bullshit pizzas. But now they added it to the cash shop.
Like, yeah, it's probably Domino's, because back around when Heavenswood was new, there was like a promotion where you could buy Final Fantasy XIV from Domino's.
I have not had Domino's in like 20 years, but my impression of it is quite bad.
Yep, it's not good. It's not all that. Don't do Domino's.
Probably better than Papa John's though. I've had Papa John's in the last 5 years, and it was unbelievably bad.
US Papa John's is not good. UK Papa John's is the shit though. Like, it's the one thing I miss about my home country.
You can't find better pizza in the United States than in England?
No, like, legit. Like, they have such good... They have a whole ass vegan menu in UK Papa John's, which is actually legit. Like, it's actually really creative what they did with it. And then US Papa John's, you go on it, you search vegan Papa John's, and then it's just a web page telling you, nope, just order it without the cheese. Like, it's like, what?
No. Yeah, you love pizza too, I'm sorry to say, yeah.
Oh, I love it, man. That's why I always make my own.
Okay, so it wasn't Domino's. It's any pizza that you buy on Grubhub.
Yeah. Alright, so it's just generic pizza, not any brand of any kind. I just assume Pizza Hut, because Pizza Hut is extremely popular in East Asia. Like, if you ever go to Thailand or anywhere, you will see incredible things on their posters, like shrimp and lobster and all kinds of just incredible things happening on those pizza slices. Sadly, I never got to try any.
Yeah, the nearby Pizza Hut, I only ever see horrifying things advertised.
Yeah. KFC, also extremely popular in China for some reason. But that is chicken, not chocobos. If that makes you feel any better.
KFC is popular in every place other than the US. It's funny.
It's awful in the US. I have not
really
been in a long time.
Yeah. From what I have heard from like just general sentiment, it's just that American KFC is uniquely awful.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say go to any other fried chicken place except for Chick-fil-A, which is extremely boring.
A lot of people hype about it for some reason.
Yeah. And Papa
because
John.
It's homophobic.
Well, yeah. I should mention, of course, that Chick-fil-A supports a lot of really shitty things, and Papa John's, the actual Papa John, is a notorious racist. So
Yeah, which is why he's gone from the company.
yeah, that's why he does not do ads with Peyton Manning anymore.
Oh.
All right. So speaking of food, speaking of loud noises from Techno's microphone, yeah, there was like a spill. Don't worry.
Oh, sorry.
Speaking of food, in America, which is where I think all of us are, except for SomeColorMage, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. It was almost an entirely American podcast, but SomeColorMage, you're still welcome. Don't worry. This past Thursday, we had our tradition called Thanksgiving, which is where you eat a lot of turkey and various other foods with family and friends and watch actually really bad games of football. It was a very bad day for football.
American football, yes. For the other listeners out there.
Football. There's one football.
No, there's not.
There's many footballs. There's Canadian football. There's Australian rules football. There's
And then
flag
there's real football, which is watched by millions of people and is the most popular sport in the world. That's correct.
There's arena football. There's many types of football. And then there's soccer, of course.
No, there's not. That word does not exist. That's bullshit. Whoever came up with that, it was some twat from Oxford. We don't have to listen to what some twat from Oxford said. Right? When you use your foot to kick a ball, it's called football.
You know that soccer is an abbreviation of association.
No,
of
I know the
football,
history behind it. I'm fully aware of the history behind it. But what I'm also fully aware of is languages evolve. Languages evolve and change over time. And over time, people have accepted, in most of the world, that when you use your foot to kick a ball, that sport is called football. But in some parts of the world, they just have not accepted that yet. And it is just mind-blowing to me. You know, the World Cup, which is the most watched event in the world by far, it has viewers in the like billions or something like that. You know, and that we're not agreed on the name of this sport is ridiculous to me. Absolutely insane.
Techno is making a bold statement for language prescriptivism.
Yes, he is. Look,
I don't know what that means, but I'm gonna go with that's probably what I'm doing. But
I'm just gonna tell
saying
you,
this to someone who actually really enjoys American football. It just doesn't get to be called football.
I'm going to tell you that it's the English that came up with the word football, and it's also the English that came up...
No, it's some twat from Oxford who came up with the word football, right?
Wait,
it's some twat from Oxford.
What's going on now?
So some guy from Oxford came up with... Okay, some guy from Oxford came up with the S word,
okay.
Right?
I just Bugs Bunnied you. I can't believe it.
Oh, for fuck's sake, you did. All right, some guy from Oxford came up with that word, right? And then... it got exported to other places, basically, without them realizing that the working class were calling it football and the upper class were using the S word. So you're being classist when you use the S word.
All right, I'm just telling you, the English came up with the word football, they came up with the word soccer, and we imported it, and we just used the word that you guys came up with.
Oh, yeah. I fully agree. I fully accept that it's Oxford's fault. You know, those twats are what's wrong with the world.
Okay.
But
I also, I'm going to tell you, Techno, I have some expertise
anyway,
here.
We've derailed the whole conversation already, but with this silly little argument.
I have some expertise here because I am a champion soccer player. The Bayonne Soccer League 3rd grade, my team won the entire thing. I am a champion. I am one of the greatest sportsmen to ever live, I'd say. I was on the defense the entire time because they never let me play offense. Because the good kids got to play offense.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's how it works. But, yeah, it was Thanksgiving, so everyone watches an NFL game, right?
You don't have to watch an NFL game, yeah. You could, you could talk politics with your relatives. That's another option.
So, this was the first time I've ever had a Thanksgiving with my own family. They actually came over from England. Ooh. You know, they came over just for, like, house stuff in general, but we decided let's time it around Thanksgiving because it'll be fun. Yeah, we made a lot of really, really good food. But Thanksgiving is a truly wonderful, wonderful part of American culture. Like, I think most would argue probably the best part of American culture. You know, it's where you sit around with your family at the table and you say what you're thankful for. Like, it's just a beautiful, beautiful day, and it was a lot of fun. And in that time, people make a lot of different foods. You know, so sometimes it's turkey. We, for obvious reasons, don't eat turkey in my family, right? We make a lot of different things, and it's super creative what people come up with for their feast. And then you have the leftovers from that for, you know, they remain in the fridge for the next few weeks. But
what actually did you guys make, if without a protein?
Yeah, so we used a lot of sweet potatoes for our protein. So we made a really good sweet potato pie. And we made this one, we made tamales with like a mix of roasted vegetables in it, and it actually tasted beautiful. It actually tasted extremely good. And then we had another pie that we made where we used marshmallows on the top. Yeah, it was very good.
Catuse, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was all right. I went to, so one of my coworkers every year insists on making an obscene amount of food and feeding everyone who is just like who wants to show up. And I didn't have anything else to do, so I went to that. And yeah, he made far more food than the like 20-something people there could possibly eat. I don't know how he did it, and it was very good.
Yeah, I met family here in New Jersey. I made a pecan pie with a lot of bourbon in it, which was too much bourbon. Pie. Too much bourbon for the younger kids, but they just got to grow up and drink their bourbon. That's what I got to say at that. I've been working with all the leftovers they gave us. I made a turkey soup this afternoon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Made a big-ass gobbler sandwich on Friday. My favorite part of Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving. And SomeColorMage, I would ask how your Thanksgiving was, but you didn't have one.
Yeah, I'm Australian. We do that stuff on Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did it on Christmas as well, but I think Americans have Christmas and Thanksgiving, so it's kind of sweet.
We do a lot of meals, and in fact, the culture's been creating yet more meals because now there's Friendsgiving.
Yeah, I heard about that.
So it's like, now there's like 5 big meals in the fall. And it's like...
It's not like an official thing or anything, but like, you know, some people like to have their own quote-unquote Friendsgiving, which is like Thanksgiving, but among a smaller group of people.
So it's like, all right, you have your Halloween party. You have your Yom Kippur big meal. Of course, everyone's Jewish, I assume. You have your Christmas dinner, you have your Thanksgiving, you have your Friendsgiving, you have your Works Thanksgiving, and it's like everything you could do to not gain 5 pounds over the course of the fall.
Yeah, if you don't have Yom Kippur, if you're Muslim, you have Eid, and if you're Hindu, I think Diwali is around this time. But I might be wrong about that.
This would be around the time that all of the big harvest holidays would happen.
Yeah, it's all in a short few months time, basically. There's a lot of stuff happens.
I didn't realize the new weight loss regime just dropped atheism.
I've actually done well. I think I only gained 1 pound over the last week, despite everything. So Final Fantasy, we like to eat in the real world, but eating in Final Fantasy is somewhat difficult considering they are pixelated foods and have no actual mass or nutrient or flavor, since video games at this point cannot simulate those things. But we figured, you know what, we don't really got anything else to really talk about, so let's talk about Final Fantasy food.
Yeah, so I think the main topic we'll probably get to, which is 14. But
crash into me, and I'll crash into you.
In the error of my ways, and I've realized that we're doing to the Espers is bad, and it's very obvious that he's going to betray you at that point.
What did I miss? I crashed in the middle of
But,
Techno's speech.
you know, when it happens, it's kind of...
Techno was telling us about the Gestel's, like, peace dinner.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VI.
All right, so
Yeah.
none of that would be on the recording at this point.
Okay.
Rip. Okay. So, I'll start from the beginning. Yeah, so Final Fantasy VI has a feast in it. And that's the earliest example I can think of food really being plot relevant in this series. And that's basically when Emperor Gestal says, I'm totally surrendering, you know. I've completely seen the error of my ways and I've realized that I was wrong this whole time. So then he throws the feast for everyone, and you have that mini game where you have to talk to as many soldiers as you possibly can, and it's kind of silly, but yeah, that happens, and then it's meant to be like this super ominous thing. So since then, I've only ever thought of like a feast in Final Fantasy as being an ominous thing that's spelling doom to come afterward.
Well, it could be like in Final Fantasy VIII, where Zell nearly chokes to death on hot dogs, which I think are just bread in the original translation, right?
Yeah, it's bread. They translated it to hot dogs.
If only it was yakisoba
right.
pan. That'd be delicious. Yakisoba pan kicks ass.
Yeah, probably was yakisoba.
It's so many carbs though. It's carbs on top of carbs. It's ridiculous. So, food, of course, is not a major part of Final Fantasy like it is in, you know, Ultima or some other video games where you actually do have to eat to survive. They're not really healing items either. You don't really knock into a wall and get a wall chicken, as you do in Castlevania. But food does happen, I guess, more or less.
Mostly...
It's happening more often.
Yes.
Mostly those greens that you give to chocobos, actually.
Yeah.
You know, that's for chocobo breeding.
And Kupo nuts, or whatever you call them, which you give to Moogles.
Yeah.
Are they Kupo nuts? Is my brain...
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you're right.
Because there's that one Moogle in Final Fantasy IX that says that he's Kupo for Kupo nuts.
Yep.
Yeah.
That did happen.
It did, yeah, but slowly, there's a new trend in video games, which I think Breath of the Wild kind of pushed upon this, where lots of games now have cooking mini-games in them. Like, I recently played Sea of Stars, and there's an elaborate cooking mini-game in that, just for your basic healing items. And I mean, the food...
That's not with Final Fantasy XI, maybe?
I don't know, because I'm not sure if Final Fantasy XI actually exists.
I think there's, oh my god, there's a huge section of the FF11 encyclopedia, and the font is so fucked up that I can't see anything, but in principle, there is an enormous cooking system in Final Fantasy XI that goes on for pages and pages and pages.
Oh yeah, it didn't shock me.
Yeah. 11's crafting is complicated and full of a bunch of urban legends that people like swore were really important to getting things to work until a couple years ago when the current producer said on Reddit, no, none of these theories are true. It's all just random chance.
Huh. It's weird that now that people can like break into game code, all these urban legends are basically dead.
Oh yeah. So like the whole Aerith is dead thing. It can be brought back thing. That died.
It's a whole like subculture of video games where people would like actually believe that you had to do X, Y, and Z and it would be more successful for whatever reason. There's been recently a lot of myths about Roller Coaster Tycoon that have come out. Like apparently guests don't actually need to drink at all. They've gone into the code and it turns out nope, no reason for them to drink. They're fine just eating.
What?
Yeah. I might be not saying that exactly correctly, but there's entire YouTube channels where they go deep into the code and know every single little thing about it, including that guests are very bad at turning left. They're good at turning right, but not turning left.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Before we move on to the double-digit games, we should also mention, of course, the character that most represents food in all of Final Fantasy, Quina Quen.
Of course, yeah. I don't know how I forgot Kina, or how I'm supposed to pronounce it. I don't know how I forgot. Yeah. I don't know how I forgot that whole scene where, like, you know, Aiko has to cook for all the Moogles and for all the guests, and then it gets ruined. I don't know how I completely forgot that scene.
I don't really remember that scene, to be honest.
Yeah, she has to prove that she's like the perfect homemaker to Zidane, yeah.
And then it goes wrong.
Well, Quina, of course, has no gender because you cannot fit gender with that much hunger. You must sacrifice other things. Quina once considered jumping into a lake to eat the moon, but then they decided that they would die if they did that. And life must continue in order for you to get to your next meal. Also, they eat a lot of frogs. A
lot of frogs.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we can support that on the Wiki podcast, considering one of our admins is a frog in real life. Anyway, Final Fantasy 15, right? Or should we do 14 first?
No, I think 14 is going to be a bigger topic, so I think we can get 15 out of the way.
Right, because
yes.
Catuse has that one thing related to 14, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have something prepared. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, also Benora apples and Crisis Core. Remember them. They exist.
They're a metaphor for something involving Shakespeare.
They're a metaphor for socialist revolution, I believe.
Makes perfect sense.
Yes.
No, unironically, I think that's actually, like, not far from the truth.
Really?
Yeah, it was something about, like, you know, the rich had their fields of Benora apples, but the poor had to, like, sometimes steal them. And so maybe if you steal a Benora apple, it's not the worst thing in the world, or, like, something ridiculous like that.
Oh, I was just shit posting when I said socialist revolution, but
unironically, you might have gotten it right.
Yeah. Well, as it turns out, the answer to everything: socialist revolution. Do not be afraid of being a Jacobin. Go for it. So, so Final Fantasy 15 is the game that is most famous for food, I'd say, considering most of it is just driving around the desert and sometimes your friend with glasses will come up with new recipes and cook them for you. And they apparently spent an enormous amount of money designing an entire food engine for the game and recreating every one of those meals and even going through all the trouble to make sure that every one of them was cookable on a campfire.
So this is something I'm going to come back to later, but this has always been so weird to me because this is a fantasy setting. We should be making all sorts of crazy, ridiculous meals that you could never think of in real life. But instead, everything that they made had to be reproducible by real-world chefs under like strong constraints.
Well, what's interesting about that is that, as far as I can tell, fantasy food is less of a thing. Most of the time, like Game of Thrones, George R.R. Martin is obsessive about his food, but it's all real food that actually exists.
Yeah.
In the Lord of the Rings movie, there's famously the scene of the Steward of Gondor going and eating his cherry tomatoes. Big, squishy, big bites, just squirting all over the place. One gets hungry watching these movies. So, yeah, it's not like people come up with fantasy food. They just, like, imagine... Also, I should point out that, if the Lord of the Rings is supposed to be our past, they would not have had tomatoes, considering they're a new world food, not an old world food. This bugs me all the time. Like Game of Thrones, they have potatoes. They couldn't have potatoes if this is supposed to be a medieval European region. Maybe that's the fantasy.
Leaks and more leaks.
Maybe that's the fantasy. It's like, what if medieval times, but they had corn? Oh, by the way. Sorry. I live in North Jersey, so there actually is a medieval times dinner and tournament right by my house. So, guess what was on the menu for that?
Potatoes and tomatoes, I'm sure.
There's tomato soup, which they would not have had. potatoes, and corn. And the one thing that was at all historically accurate was a roast chicken. Everything else completely wrong.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I am the only patron there who cared. Even though I was drunk out of my ass because the drinks are extremely strong there, I still had to complain. Crash into me, and I'll crash into you.
When died.
Ugh.
Oh, yeah.
God, this is so annoying.
Okay, how much did we lose this time?
Only about 30 seconds. Firefox just keeps
whatever.
crashing. I don't know what the hell I can do at this point.
Rip.
This is the last time this computer will be used for one of these recordings. This is it. It cannot function even for this very small computative task. Why don't we get to Catuse's recipe stuff so that way, we can wrap this up before this computer dies for good.
Yeah, we finished 15 basically.
Yeah.
All there is to say about it is it gives you a bunch of buffs if you make the right meal, and apparently
Like, it looks good. Like,
it does look good, but it also looks very generic.
No, it's a fantastic, the best graphics in that game. Honestly, looks better than
food.
the people.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean that the actual items of food themselves are quite generic and not very fantastical.
I don't know. I might disagree.
It's kind of funny late in the game after Ignis has been blinded and one dungeon you go to has a rest stop, and because Ignis can't cook, your only options are put a can of something on the fire, or if you had the foresight to buy cup noodles, you can put one of those on instead.
Oh yeah, we're forgetting the most important food-related thing of Final Fantasy, the cup of noodles thing for Dissidia and for Final Fantasy XV.
Noctis truly is like a spoiled brat. The only thing he knows how to make is cup noodles if his servant isn't there to help him.
Yeah.
Well, he's like 19. That's all I knew how to cook when I was 19. If you couldn't microwave it, it was beyond my abilities. I remember I once cooked fish when I was like 23, and I was so proud of myself. All I did was put it in the oven. That's all I needed to do. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. You can actually make food. This is a thing that's possible in the world. So, Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah. Okay. So, sorry, give me 1 second. Okay.
All right, no, we can vamp for a little while.
So 14 has a cooking mechanic in it, right? And the cooking mechanic was so successful that they made us a whole ass cookbook. I do not have this cookbook because I'm vegan, so I probably can't make most of it. But
there's a whole thing in the back about like dietary restrictions and how to modify the recipes.
Is it?
But I should mention the Final Fantasy XV does not have an official cookbook, but you can find a PDF online where the fans have recreated every single one of those things.
Yeah, it's fun.
Because they're all real world recipes, so yeah.
So knowing that the book does cater to me, I might actually get it. I legit did not know that.
I'm going to go ahead and go through some of the recipes in here that I think are either interesting or that I've made, or and also some things that should be in here but aren't, or maybe they'll be in the sequel. Okay, so let's start in the first chapter, which is breakfast. So the very first recipe is almond cream croissants, and so throughout this book, I should say that throughout this book, the narrative of this book is that there's this Moogle and this Namazu that are traveling around to Theris, trying to learn about all the different foods that people eat in the world. And so all of the food comes with some lore, but sometimes it's kind of half-assed. And a lot of this, basically all of this food is stuff that you can make as a culinarian to get buffs for your party in game. And so because this is an MMORPG and every patch the item level goes up, they need to have higher and higher item level foods. So there is a very large collection of things you can make with a culinarian, only a small fraction of which fit into this 200-something page book. And only a very small fraction, which I will be talking about today. Okay, so the very first recipe in here is almond cream croissants.
Sounds amazing, I'll be honest.
And that's okay. But then you turn the page and you realize that there is a version that is on extreme difficulty. It is the Yoshi P. Bard himself told the somehow like magically persuaded this Namazu to make a croissant primal that is 40 malms, that's 40 miles tall. And what this amounts to in real life is that the extreme version is you bake everything from scratch yourself.
Wait, so you have to bake a croissant that's 40 miles tall in your actual kitchen?
Well, no. The actual croissant is like the size of a little plate. Okay. But it is still a very long and complicated recipe because you are making a very fancy, creamy croissant all by yourself.
Yeah.
From completely scratch ingredients.
So you cannot use Pillsbury Doughboy to go and make your Final Fantasy XIV fantasy.
Yeah, the Yoshi P. Bard will make fun of you for not being a real gamer if you do that.
Well, I also try to cook everything from scratch when I am baking, so I would actually do that, but I am somewhat afraid to make croissants because I imagine they're very, very fiddly. And the French scare me in general, to be honest.
So the other two breakfasts so these I actually have made. I have not made the croissants. The other two breakfasts that I've made are not vegan, unfortunately. The farmer's breakfast and the wildwood scrambled eggs. The scrambled eggs are scrambled eggs. And I think the lore is just that the Namazu like went to the farmer's market and he couldn't find anything because people had already bought everything. So he just bought some eggs.
Are they very creamy scrambled eggs or like normal scrambled eggs?
There's some sour cream and some heavy cream, and then there's some shiitake mushrooms.
Okay.
But otherwise they are scrambled eggs. But the farmer's breakfast, and I mean they're pretty good, but it's kind of a filler item. They just threw it in. The farmer's breakfast though, so there's some lengthy explanation of how this is made by Laotian farmers because it is a lot of because they have a lot of hard labor and this is super easy to make. And so this is actually lore accurate in that it is easy to make. It's just an omelet with an ungodly amount of potatoes and kielbasa in it. You just sort of put it in the oven and let it go.
So Poland exists in the Final Fantasy XIV world.
Yes, okay. but so this is something that's confusing. Is that this is explicitly from Lenosha. However, Lenosha is very far away from Garlemald, and Garlemald is basically Russia or maybe like the eastern part of Ukraine. I mean, I think at one point Garlemald was supposed to be Roman, but then at some point the developers changed their mind and made it Russian.
It's basically okay. So like this is something that they actually explained on a while back in the FanFest where with Koji Fox and oh god, I mind blanked the current lead translator's name. Talking about Kate Quinner. And they're talking about the cultural influences and like, yeah, a big thing of Garlemald, to do the big empire. It's Latin, but also when they had to actually add Garlemald to the game in Endwalker, they were thinking about where it actually is, and they're basically frozen wasteland. How would that culturally affect things? And like, oh, like Russia. So they became Roman Russian.
Well, Moscow is the third Rome, so it all fits together.
Yeah.
And so one of the foods that is not in the book and that but is definitely in the game that Garleans explicitly eat an obscene amount of is borscht. Okay, so going into the second chapter, which is appetizers, there are a lot of appetizers, but a lot of them are what are called mikebabs, which are kebabs with and the different kinds of kebabs, there's there's one with bell peppers and onions and mushrooms and stuff, and then there's one with meat, and then there's one with fish. And I have not made these, but I wanted to bring them up because they were kind of the thing that inspired me to want to talk about this on the podcast, because something that has been trendy in recent days among Final Fantasy XIV players on social media has been people saying, oh yeah, I want my family asked me to make something for Thanksgiving, and then afterwards they said it was really good and they wanted to know what the recipe was, and I was too embarrassed to tell them where I got the recipe. And specifically an example that I think multiple people gave was these mikebabs. So I have not made these. I can't rate them, but apparently, at the very least, the families of FF14 players on Twitter really like these things.
That's good.
Kebabs are not exactly all that. Really they're not that sophisticated. It's just meat and vegetables on a stick.
Yeah. These recipes are not complicated. I mean, yeah. Okay, so we're gonna skip bread entirely because I don't know anything about baking. They also just kind of seem to be just like regular ass kinds of bread.
Oh, I like baking.
Okay, so I'm gonna do one recipe each of soup, main dishes, and side dishes, all of which I have made.
Oh, by the way, if you're listening at home, you have to cook all these things in real time while the show is happening.
Of course. So in the soup section, we have Koltz, which is also from Lenosha. Specifically, it's from Costa del Sol. So Costa del Sol, is apparently inspired by Wales.
The FF14 Costa del Sol.
So it's not inspired by Spain, which actually does have a Costa del Sol.
Yep.
Yeah, that's more Seven's thing. Like,
okay. I honestly think the only reason it's called Costa del Sol is just because that's what it's named after.
Well,
that's the reference. Yes.
And Britain, famously an island with tons of sunlight.
Oh yeah. Well, the seaside towns are all right, but they're not all that.
Sorry, Catuse, continue.
Well, Britain is kind of north in the real world. In Final Fantasy XIV world, this equivalent is relatively equatorial.
So this is a very good recipe. I mean, it is basically vegan. I mean, I think they say that they recommend chicken stock, but you can use vegetarian stock instead.
Yeah, vegetable stock.
I guess you'd have to probably change out the cream for something else. But I mean, it is basically a vegan recipe. I make this a lot because I'm getting old, as I keep saying, and I need to stop eating trash all the time.
You were the youngest one here, I think, by far, right?
Yeah, we're all getting old.
Okay. I guess we're all...
Back in the old days, the Final Fantasy Wiki was run by 12-year-olds.
Yeah, you're right.
But somehow the lore is kind of half-assed. It's just what's his face? The horny guy from Costa del Sol made Girajuju made his chef make this. Yeah. Okay, so main dish is the one that I made is creamy salmon pasta, which is another one that doesn't really have lore other than the Namazu, again, went to the market and couldn't find any fresh salmon, so he bought a smoked salmon. This is also pretty good. It's a little... I think the way that I made it is a little bland, but maybe I think the issue is that I maybe don't have experience cooking with Guy Lon, and maybe I could have done it a bit better. That's pretty good, and also these are the things that these like main dish, side dish, soup choices that I've mentioned are all like pretty easy to make. I think they understand that they are making a cookbook for gamers who don't know how to take care of themselves.
Oh man, brutal.
I mean, none of these recipes I feel like are super related to the game, other than that they are briefly, either that they're in the culinarian option or they're briefly mentioned in the game at some point. Like mashed potatoes is literally just mashed potatoes.
Yeah, and aside from the one that has an extreme difficulty variant, they're all relatively simple, right?
Yeah, well, I think so. There's the chocobo cake, which looked complicated, and the pizza also looked complicated. But I will say some things about I will say some things about Charlian later.
What is a chocobo cake? Does that have actual chocobo in it? Or
no, the chocobo cake. The chocobo cake is a cake. I don't really know why it's called a chocobo cake.
Is that the one that they have like a video of the voice actors trying to make one?
I believe so. Yes. No, this is a freaking complicated ass cake. Okay, there's like you have to make the sugar yourself. You have to make the whipped cream yourself. There's like multiple layers. You got like strawberries in the middle layer and in the top layer, and I don't really know what this has to do with Oh, this is called a chocobo cake because if you go chocobo racing, because this game rips off of Final Fantasy VII, it has chocobo racing. Yep. Apparently, the Moogle thinks that you should feed your chocobo cake to make it run faster.
Okay, so this is a strawberry cake. It looks like vanilla with...
Yeah, this is an enormous vanilla strawberry cake, yes.
Okay, you know what? This looks like just like a basic Japanese strawberry cake, is my assumption of what this is.
I mean, I think I'm just very bad at baking, and so seeing like 2 pages of instructions intimidates me.
There is a 5-hour video of some lady cooking this. 5 hours is a long time for a cake, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I think the recipe says it will take a few hours to make.
You're making everything from scratch. I'm assuming you're also making the icing from scratch.
Yeah, that's what I said. It has you make... if you don't want to disappoint Yoshi P, you have to make everything from scratch so he thinks you're a true gamer.
Well, this is genuinely how I make my cakes, is I make everything from scratch. Sometimes it does not work out. Sometimes cakes get stuck in pans, and it is a moment of deep, horrible sadness where you want to leave your life behind and go live in a bog and subsist on raw fish for the rest of your life. It's tough.
So since we're in the dessert section, let us move on to the coffee biscuit, which I have not made, but my fiance keeps bugging me to make. And the thing about this is that the recipe, I'll say why the recipe is horrifying for lore-related reasons, but the recipe is kind of horrifying in practice, in that basically, I mean, obviously you have flour and you have eggs, right? But then you just have an obscene amount of sugar and espresso powder, and also some chocolate.
A lot of espresso powder?
Well, you have a tablespoon of espresso. Okay, I guess this is for 24 cookies, so 1 tablespoon of espresso powder isn't that bad. But I mean,
still quite a bit, honestly.
Yeah, you got a lot of sugar, a lot of espresso, a lot of chocolate, and keep in mind that it is mentioned many times in the Stormblood, in like the Stormblood post game, that Reen and Gaia are going to go on a date to eat coffee biscuits. Now, these are 2 teenage girls whose magical girl powers have accidentally ended the world, almost accidentally ended the world once, and twice if you did the raid on Savage difficulty.
Oh wait, are these? This is the lesbian couple from that one expansion.
This is the lesbians from Shadowbringers. Yes.
Yeah, one's a goth, one's very girly. Yeah, it's all right.
This is the Eden arc.
I would not, if I had a teenage daughter, I would not want her eating these because I would not want to have to deal with her afterwards. And that's assuming that she's like a normal ass person, and if she like loses control of her power, she might not accidentally destroy the universe or something.
Yeah.
So these things are horrifying.
Like, yeah. So like for anyone who's not aware, in the second part of Eden, you're basically figured out that you can restore elements to the first shard after it's almost been completely destroyed, then bounce towards light. By using Eden's powers to recreate primals that you've created on the source and kill them, distributing their ether all around the land. And at one point, and it turns out the Warrior of Light's memory is extremely shit, so he ends up doing things like imagining Titan being part all-terrain vehicle, and eventually they have to do ice on the elemental wheel. Like, ice is the closest element to light, and there's already too much light in the area, so and they hear about how Shiva was summoned, and it's like, the Shiva in our world isn't actually its own independent being. It's basically someone that the summoner channels onto themselves. So Ryan is like, okay, let's do that. That turns out to be a fucking horrible idea. She nearly freezes the entire planet.
Final Fantasy XIV is weird.
Yeah. Well, this is the most heavily Nomura involved part of the game.
I believe it. There's a goth girl. I know what Nomura's into.
Yeah, there's like a weird Keyblade. I think there's like multiple like bosses like with weird Keyblade symbols in that raid, actually, now that I think about it. Okay, so that's desserts. Moving on to drinks. So my fiance really likes espresso con panna, and the lore justification for this is that Y'shtola drinks it while she's reading a book. This is not. I mean, so Jistola is like kind of someone who pretends to be very serious, but is kind of flamboyant and ridiculous. And this actually fits her character completely because this drink is totally impractical. It takes a ton of work to make just for like 2 shots of espresso in like a little glass and some like cream on top.
Can you tell me what's actually in this drink?
It's like 2 espresso shots in a little glass, and then there's like whipped cream and sour cream and a bunch of sugar and vanilla. And the reason why this is a ton of work is just because you have to like stand mix the frickin' cream and make peaks and shit. Just for a little cup of coffee.
Well, you can just buy whipped cream like from a nozzle thingy, like from a store.
I guess, yeah, but you still have to like I don't know. You have to like you have to get the sugar and vanilla to mix into it. Okay. I guess maybe you can do that with store-bought whipped cream. I just don't know how. This fits Jistola's character.
I would say out of all these recipes, the one I most want to make is this strawberry cake because I feel like Yoshi P has thrown a gauntlet down on me. So the next time we have a IRL wiki thing, I will make that strawberry cake.
Very good.
Yeah.
So Pixie Berry tea is something that I've made multiple times. So for some reason, so I said that Costa del Sol is Wales, and Ilmeg, which is the fairy country, is Scotland. Everyone there is Scottish, and so naturally this is a southern sweet tea.
What? Excuse me.
It doesn't make any sense, but this is like a green tea with lots of sugar and like strawberries that have like dissolved into the tea over the course of like 12 hours or something like that. It's very good. I like this.
Huh.
And there's a picture of a giant beaver in front of it.
Oh no, the fucking beaver.
Yeah.
This is not an innuendo,
so that's
just an actual beaver.
Yes.
Yes,
the
just an
beavers
actual
in Final
beaver
Fantasy XIV are eldritch abominations.
Okay. Still not an innuendo, right?
No, they literally are just
Not
eldritch
an
abominations.
innuendo.
Okay. What? All right. Don't worry about it.
Like yeah, there's a preview page for Encyclopedia Rails 3. Yeah, like you can look at the previews. One of the pages is about the beavers, and like showing about what they actually are, and just gets cut off by a giant blood stain.
Still not an innuendo, right? God damn.
Still not an innuendo.
We're literally talking about beavers.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So we're getting
my brain works in very hetero ways, I'm sorry to say.
So getting near the end, the last drink that is actually a drink that is on here is warm wine, which is Thancred's favorite flavor of mulled red wine with lots and lots of cherries. This is very sweet. I mean, this is good. But I've only made this once because I think if you make this more often, you'll become too often you'll become an alcoholic. And Thancred is a sad dad, so maybe he actually is an alcoholic. Maybe this is lore friendly.
What is mulled red wine? Because I saw the girl on Great British Baking Show. She made something with it recently.
I mean, you take wine, you put it in a pot, and you simmer it with cinnamon and spices, and in this case also cherries and oranges.
So it's kind of like a sangria, sorta.
Yeah, kind of.
All right. Huh. All right. Well, today I learned.
So
I will have to try this.
So also in the drinks category are a lot of different kinds of potions. Now, these are also things that I have not made, and if you make them, you should make them very sparingly. Because these potions are basically just different kinds of gin and tonic with different syrups that have been, and liqueurs that have been chosen, so that the potion has the same color and I guess carbonation properties of the potions in the little in-game icons of potions. Yeah, these things I think you would get drunk off of very quickly, which is maybe an improvement over Final Fantasy XV's potions, which are canonically just Red Bull.
Oh, gross. I will say in the Final Fantasy XIV cafe, they did have individual drinks, cocktails for every single job class. So of course I ordered the Dragoon one, all non-alcoholic. It was very disappointing.
Yeah, I mean there are notes in here about you could make this without alcohol and it could be like a mocktail. It's then you're just drinking sugar water. That sounds horrible.
I mean, unfortunately, my family is
but,
very
okay,
prone to heartburn, so we can't really do cocktails all that well anyway.
This is tragic.
Yeah.
So I will wrap up by saying a few things that should have been in the book, and I recognize this book came out before Endwalker, so hopefully, some of these are related to Endwalker, so hopefully they will be in a sequel. So first of all is Archon Loaf, which is so Charlian is a society of academics who read the literature all day and don't do anything else, and I am an academic who reads the literature all day and don't do anything else, and sometimes I will drink Soylent, which is exactly like Archon Loaf, except you don't feel less hungry after drinking Soylent.
Soylent, as in the thing from 1970s, the Charlton
No,
Heston movie?
Soylent is in like the liquid nutritional supplement that you drink when you're too fucking lazy to eat something.
Yeah, Soylent Green. It's made from people.
Yeah, it is made from people. The problem with it is that it doesn't make you feel less hungry afterwards. Archon Loaf is basically Soylent, and everyone except the like academic losers talk about how horrible it tastes. This is something that was brought up like 20 times in Endwalker.
Also, like in the game, this is like one of the most lovingly detailed textures in the game. Just the Archon Loaf. It looks better than some characters' outfits. It definitely comes up in 5.3 when Graha's dying of the crystal corruption stuff, and his outfit just looks all like 16-bit era pixelated, and it'll be next to this slice of Archon Loaf, which is just lovingly detailed. It's like
this just looks like
Archon Loaf.
This just looks like a whole wheat loaf of bread. I'm looking at a picture of it.
It is frequently mentioned that it tastes terrible and it completely solves your nutritional needs, and they should put this in the book. Okay, so there's also this. So something that's mentioned a few times in Heaven's Word is the Salmal tart, which is apparently it's not actually a tart; it's a cake. It's a huge cake that looks like the holy mountain of the Dravanian people, which is Salmal, and so it's just a huge cake that looks like a mountain. And apparently Ishgardians eat this because they think that if they're eating their enemy's holy place, it gives them superpowers. Which makes no fucking sense, but whatever. Ishgardians are really they're weird-ass Catholics. But...
they're the church that doesn't let you fuck dragons, I see.
Yes, yeah, and the Salmal is where the dragons that you can't fuck are.
Yeah, they're basically Franco-English Catholic. That should give you an impression of how fucking weird they are.
Yeah, all that sounds cursed.
This should have been in the book because it's just an absurd concept of just a huge cake that looks like a mountain. It just makes no fucking sense. And then also another thing from Heaven's Word is happiness juice, because in this game, naming ways people are called Glopperits, and they think that humans only eat carrots, and they think that carrots are the most amazing thing in the world. And happiness juice is carrot juice, but apparently there is something in it that makes it taste absolutely amazing. And I want to know what they put in the happiness juice that makes you so happy. Maybe it's drugs.
Maybe it's just carrots, because carrots actually are the most amazing thing in the world.
Well, I think it is mentioned that there is something other than carrots in there, but it's mysterious. It's the secret Krabby Patty formula. So that should be in the book.
Pure overall, LSD.
Probably. Overall, I think this is a pretty good purchase. I would have liked to see more wacky stuff. I would have liked to see maybe some more lore. But the recipes in here are just actually good recipes that you can make, even if you're like a dumbass like me who doesn't know how to cook. And yes, there are instructions on how to make them vegan or dairy free or alcohol free or whatever.
Love it.
And if you're willing to look further, there are communities of people who have tried to figure out the recipes of things you can make in game. So there's more out there.
That is my review of the Ultimate Final Fantasy XIV Online Cookbook, The Essential Culinarian Guide to Hydaelyn by Victoria Rosenthal, who's someone who I think her career is just making books like these for every video game.
But the book is not online. It is the video game that is online.
Yes.
Okay. I was confused. I know this is a real book because I think this was a news report from a little while ago, like 2 years ago, where I said I would buy this book and then I never did. She has also made Pokemon. She's made Fallout. I would not want to eat any food from Fallout. Just gotta say that. Halo, Destiny, God of War, Street Fighter. Yeah, this is her career. This is what she does. But absolutely, I'm not eating a single fucking thing from Fallout. That world looks so gross. Alright, so to wrap up, as I figure we've mostly done a pretty good podcast, my final question for all of you is, if you could eat any Final Fantasy character, which one would it be?
What the fuck?
Doesn't necessarily have to be a person.
What the fuck?
What? If you had to consume one, who would it be? Or maybe a Final Fantasy creature.
This question goes too much against my morals. I refuse.
Well, you are a vegan, so you don't necessarily need to answer it. But you could answer like a Marlboro. Would eating a Marlboro, by the way, be against veganism? Considering they are a plant, but they are also kind of an animal.
Probably not. I imagine...
That would also be kind of gross.
Yeah, it would not taste good. It would almost certainly kill you.
Yeah, fuck that. Alright, so that's not going to be my answer.
My answer, let's say Red 13.
I'm gonna say the Final Fantasy VII cast, after they've all been turned into frogs, and with the like weird like French like frog leg delicacy.
Yeah, we cannot let Skate
That's how it
listen
should
to
be
this
prepared.
episode. This episode is very bad for him, specifically.
Okay. I've decided.
Yep.
I'm going with a cactuar.
Ah. Yeah. Or one of those creepy alien cactuars. They look like they might be tasty.
No, the massive one. The massive cactuar.
A lot of needles, though.
Yeah, you get rid of the needles first, but then after that, it'll probably be alright.
Look, this will probably end up killing me, but look, all of the flan type enemies are named after types of desserts, so they clearly want to be eaten.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, they would
smart.
be tasty. Yeah.
That's smart. Oh, you just mind brain. Mind
you
game
did
the
mind brain,
entire
yeah.
question.
Yeah, I might change my answer to a flan. I don't think I actually do want to eat Red 13. He's kind of too close to being a dog, even though he's also like a lion. It'd be wrong. You can't.
Well, Red 13 is the last of his kind, man. That's rude.
Well, that makes him extra tasty. It's deeply forbidden. All right.
Wait, is he the last? I mean, he's not the last of his kind after the end of the game, right? You know, he has those little ones.
He reproduces asexually, I guess.
Somehow.
His children bud off of him, or possibly undergoes mitosis. So that was the Final Fantasy Wiki podcast. This is a monthly podcast done by the Final Fantasy Wiki, produced by BlueHighwind and his dog shit fucking computer that will not work anymore. This will be the last podcast we do on this piece of shit, because I don't care how much it is to get a new computer. I am not dealing with this anymore. The podcast music is by XPRTNovice. It's La Montaña de los Jovenes Caballeros, which is off the OC Remix Balance and Ruin soundtrack. Thank you for letting us use their music. And, well, the Broncos are on in about 10 minutes, so I am not going to sleep. I will be watching that game. Thank you all. Have a good night. Alright, we're doing the test recording now, so if everybody could say a few things that mean to them. What are you thankful for on this day of Thanksgiving?
Who's going first?
I'm thankful for all of this delicious cranberry sauce that I will never be tired of, or never run out of.
Good choice.
It's 6 a.m., so I'm too tired to be thankful for anything.
I'm thankful for Aston Villa 4th in the motherfucking league. Get fucked.
I'm thankful. I think it's a soccer thing.
No, it's not. It's a football thing. But yes, go on.
European football, I guess.
Yes, there you go. That's fine. I'll accept that. That is perfectly acceptable.
And I am thankful for the Denver Broncos winning 4 games in a row and turning around what was a catastrophe season into one that is semi-respectable and one I have a lot of hope for.
Good stuff, man. I haven't been following it enough to follow the other teams other than my own, which I don't know how to follow my fucking team, man. It's the most inconsistent team I've ever seen. Like, one game they'll look like sheer fucking brilliance, unstoppable, and then the next game they would just be so tragic. I don't get it, man. I don't understand this team.
I think there are actually no good teams in the NFL, is what's secretly happening. There's just a lot of teams that can be good certain weeks, and there's a lot of wild, inconsistent teams.
I don't know, man. The Eagles look pretty dominant.
They also lost to the Jets.